garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. The sardis, the topaz, the diamond, the beryl, and the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and the gold. The workmanship of your tabrets and of your pipes was prepared in you in the day that you were created. You are the anointed cherub, covered, and I have set you so. You are upon the holy mountain of God, and you have walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. You are perfect in your ways from the day that you were created, till iniquity was found in you. By the multitude of your merchandise, they have filled the midst of you with violence. Thou hast sinned, and therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God. I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. For your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by the reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground, and I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thy iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth fire from the midst of thee. It shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them to behold thee. And all they that know you among the people shall be astonished at you. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shall you be anymore. Now, according to Revelation chapter 18, now first let me go to chapter 14. Verse number 8. There followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Now I go over to chapter 18, same book of Revelation. Starting at verse number 1, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hole of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of our sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she has filled to her double. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she said in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall our plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine. She shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judges her. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city! For in 1 hour is your judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her. For no man buys their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver, and precious stones, and of pearls, and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and all fine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon and orders, and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil, and fine flour and wheat and beasts, and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men. And the fruits that your soul lusted after are departed from you. And all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee. And thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships, and sailors and many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all who had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and thou holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged thee on her. And the mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, and saying, Thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians and pipers, trumpets shall be heard no more at all in her. And no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee. And the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For the merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all who were slain upon the earth. The cry of the Spirit to the angel of God, fallen is Babylon the great. The systems of the earth appreciate operations. Upon Thursday evening, as I listened to the man of God as he expounded about the times and the crisis that we're in, it bears us to understand that the time is close at hand, and that we are made to become alert and aware of what is taking place in our land. When Babylon, the first city that was made, it was in defiance against God. For God had said in His Word, be fruitful and multiply and fill up the earth. But man decided they were not going to do what God says. And so the Bible said they went and they built a city who said that a tower reached up to heaven. Man decided that they want to stay in one place. And God had to do something about it. For He said that if God had allowed them to continue, they would have been able to achieve their goal. And so God came down and messed up their language so that they could no longer communicate effectively, to the point that they had to scatter themselves upon the earth. And ever since that time, man has always sought to lift himself up above God and not to give adherence to the commandment of God. They built that city. God destroyed it. It was never finished. And as time unfolds, we discover and Babylon was built. And while it was the physical type of Babylon in terms of a city that was made, built of great structures and stones. As a matter of fact, one of the things I learned about it, when Nebuchadnezzar came to the throne, he lavished so much with Babylon that he, more than any other king before her, made great prosperity. And the fence of that city, imagine you have a wall of that city that was at least 11 to 12 miles long. When you think about that, I'm thinking about beginning from here to Charlestown and over to Newcastle. That's about 8 miles, a little more than 8 miles. You have to go on a little further up into St. James's to come to 11 miles. That city was so great. Imagine the borders, wall itself was made 11 miles long. And yet inside that wall there's a second wall that was wide enough to have 2 chariots to ride abreast. It could at least, when you think about our little cars that we have on the road, at least 2 of them can drive easily side by side on the inner wall of that city. Portrayed with its hanging gardens, its beauty was unsurpassed. It is said the hanging gardens were one of the wonders of the world at that time. Nebuchadnezzar built the city, and with the tabernacle and the shrine that were in it, he literally paved them with gold. Could you imagine? We have mortar to cover our buildings, a blocks. Nebuchadnezzar had gold to cover the buildings. And that's how magnificent it had become. Prosperous. But it also became so corrupt. It was where many martyrs were taken and whose life was snuffed out. It is where the systems of the world begin in such a tremendous way that every people of the earth flow into that area, doing their commerce and their business. And so until that time, until now, even though that Babylon had been destroyed and the city itself, we have the system still stands today. In that, what governed the system and what governed Babylon that time is still Babylon, is been governing the world today. If you understand that where we sit and where we stand or where we live, every bit of this world's commerce, every bit of this world finance is headed by the system of Babylon. I make sure I read to you as God give me